Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back, episode 151 of the podcast. Theo, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it's been a busy work week, like I was just telling you offline. Enjoying a bit of peace and quiet so far on Friday. Big half marathon planned for Sunday around the West Ham Stadium, actually, the Olympic Park. So that might make me run quicker to get out of there as quickly as possible. So, but yeah, I've been carb fueling all week to make sure I'm energized and fueled up for Sunday. Any excuse to eat really, but yeah, I'm good. Dare I say, looking forward to the game tomorrow afternoon. It's kind of like come to bite me recently, but yeah, I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to a bit of football. It's been a good week of football on TV, at least with the Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, and
yeah,
starting to be a bit more clear now who will play in the round of 16, which is only in 2 weeks.
yeah.
We're going to talk about it in a bit, and I think it's officially the draw is going to be live at 1 o'clock. So yeah, looking forward to maybe planning another trip to add to my 2025 calendar, early March time. But how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Not running marathons or half marathons like you. I think my body wouldn't handle that. But no, I'm good. I'm good. It's obviously good to record the podcast. Good to get to another weekend. We've got some really good fixtures coming up. Not just Chelsea versus Aston Villa at Villa Park, but some really good juicy fixtures. City, Liverpool, all the rest of it this weekend. So one thing I did say on the last video, I'm going to say it on the audio version of the podcast as well. We appreciate everyone that is subscribing to our YouTube channel. We hit the 500 milestone early this week. I think we're on 509, 510 subscribers. So they're slowly creeping up. My words are not being wasted on our new subscribers. They are subscribing, so we appreciate that 100%. But let's start with let's start with the news that's kind of circled around the club. Obviously we haven't had a match this week, so it kind of feels like there's had to be things thrown into the media spotlight to sort of negate for that reason. But obviously the protest is something that's clearly on a lot of Chelsea fans' minds at the moment. It's due to take place next Tuesday, Bovril Gate, 6 p.m. Um, before the game, before ahead of kickoff. Now, we sort of touched on this earlier this week. I think we touched on it maybe last week as well. But what's your thoughts on protests? I know I've been calling for it. I've been one that's sort of advocating for people standing up and trying to have their voices heard. But what's your thoughts on the initial idea of a protest? And I don't know if I want to ask you about the talk sports stuff afterwards. I don't know if you got to hear the fan, unfortunately, that was on there. But let's start with the protest first. What's your thoughts on that? And do you think it's the right thing for us to be doing as Chelsea fans?
Well, firstly, I think it's frustrating that it's gotten to this point because Chelsea Football Club and protest shouldn't really go hand in hand. We've usually in the past been a club that's been very well managed and we've had really good ownership. But sadly, it's come to that stage now where the fans want to be vocal. They want to have their words and their thoughts kind of vocalized and vocalized not just to the club and the ownership, but also I think the football community and the wider kind of world to know that they're very discontent with what's happening around the football club. I'm a bit on the fence about whether I think it's a good solution or not. I think a couple of weeks ago we were discussing ways for the fans to show their disapproval, and I think we mentioned maybe like silent sit-ins after the games are finished, or maybe walkouts and things like that. I think Tottenham did it against I think it was against Manchester United, where a few fans stayed in the stadium after full time with banners. I think that was a bit more powerful because the cameras actually caught them in the moment, and they kind of had like Levi out and those kind of banners.
Mm.
In this case, I think the last thing I want is things to turn very toxic, not just in the stadium, but around the stadium as well. But I also kind of do agree very strongly with the message that's been sent about the owners, the recruitment, the direction the club's heading in. So I do think it was almost inevitable that this was going to happen. Um, I'm still unsure on the kind of numbers that are going to turn up. I think rumored it's about like a couple hundred Chelsea fans, 6 p.m. Bovril Gate before the Southampton game on Tuesday, like you mentioned. I would definitely go along, whether I'd actually participate in the protest or just stand on the side and observe it. It's still TBC, but I do have my five-a-side football actually on Tuesday at 7 p.m. So it's going to kind of stop me from going along. I'm not, if not, I've definitely gotten some content for the Instagram page and kind of seen what it was all about. But no, I really do appreciate the passion of the Chelsea fans that are going there because does go to show that these people really care about the club and they're not willing to just sit there in silence and let things drag on or continue like they're going. But instead, they want to be vocal. They want to kind of show their frustration and their passion. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of Sky Sports cameras, TNT cameras, whatever it is, around there to kind of interview a few fans and get them get their actions on camera as well. But yeah, I did also listen to that Talksport interview, and I've got a lot to say about that. But yeah, what are your thoughts overall about the protest, and if you think it's the right solution, or kind of you think it's kind of a bit toxic and not what we associate with Chelsea Football Club?
I think, I mean, I've been saying for so long that I think, something needs to change at the club, and I don't think it. Again, I said earlier on this week, and I probably said last week and the week before that and the week before that. This isn't just about Todd Bowley and Egbali. This isn't just about the owners. This isn't just about the fact that we've had owners come in and we don't think they ran the club as best as they could have done. This is a lot more than that. I mean, I was reading into something yesterday that the way that the club is structured now, it's all. I mean, they've split down literally every entity of Chelsea Football Club into its own little small pocket of umbrella. So they're earning money from left, right, and centre. There's two subsidiary owners, companies underneath the whole sort of umbrella of Blueco. It's crazy. I mean, I'll try and show you. I'll try and find you the stuff that I was reading, the material. But when you look at it, you can just see that this is a business model literally just set up for money. And I don't think anyone's begrudging any owner, any business owner who's worth millions or billions of pounds to come in and try and make more millions, because that's obviously the ultimate goal for them, is to make money. My worry is, by doing so, we're forgetting all the basic stuff that's needed on the pitch, which is, focusing on results, focusing on trophies, focusing on bringing the right players in. So I think a lot of that's been missed by the owners. And, as part of this material, one of the things I was looking into was, the club's already taken out sort of two massive loans. One, I think, is JP Morgan, and the other one's Bank of America. They're both equal £1.2 billion. So, if anything happens for these protests, and we actually do get some sort of movement, whether the owners decide they want to move on, and Blueco is now taken over and handed over to someone else, there's 1.2 billion that has to be cleared before these owners can move on. There's so much underneath it. I'll have to send you all the material, but I think in a nutshell, I think the protests are a good thing. My thing, what you've just said, is I don't want it to be one of those things that it suddenly becomes just people who've been in a pub since 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then they get there and then they just want to start causing stupid noise and nonsense, when, that's what Sky Sports will be waiting for. That's what the media will be waiting for. Things like that, not the fact that I don't think they'll even cover it. I'll be honest. I don't think TNT or any of those will cover the protest. I think they'll try and hush it to keep the owners sweet. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. I do think it's a really good thing. I did a video yesterday on the Talksport, Simon Jordan, Jim White, their comments. As I said before, I did feel sorry for the Chelsea fan, but I also think if you're going on to Talksport, you've got to do your homework and you've got to understand what it is that they're going to come back with you and talk to you about. But what did you think about those comments, mainly from Simon Jordan, who, previous owner of a football club? He's always going to be on one side of the coin, and it's not going to be the fan side. But what did you think of his comments?
Yeah, like I actually watched your video this morning, and I feel like it was very enlightening, and I agree with everything you said. And for the poor Chelsea fan who called in, I feel bad for him. I'm a huge fan of Stevie. I'm sure you've seen some of his Twitter content and his Instagram content. He's so passionate. He drives down from north of the country down to London for many games. And I think he just has the best interest of the club at heart in a way, and that's his main kind of goal. And I just feel like those two hosts were just out there to get him. They were out there to humiliate him, to just kind of state these facts, bring up Roman Abramovich, which had nothing to do with the conversation that was being had, and more about the protests. And if you actually rewatch that interview, only about the first 60 seconds of it were about the protests, and all the rest was about what's happened with Chelsea Football Club, the recent signings, this, and then he starts to talk about, are you happy with Moises Caicedo? Are you happy about the Neto signing, Fernandes signing? That's got nothing to do with the reason why we're protesting, or why he was asked to call in and share his thoughts. And again, I do feel sorry for him, because he was a bit like a deer in headlight. Often you go into these situations, you go into these work presentations or these big interviews, and you've got a range of kind of thoughts or ideas or points that you want to get across, and then all of a sudden you're caught there like a deer in headlights, and you don't really know what to say. You lose your trail of thought, and the host gave him no kind of moments to really voice his opinion. They kept interrupting him and being rude and kind of just kind of having this antagonizing kind of behavior towards him. And you feel like, well, I like with your video, the first 60 seconds, you're just basically saying how much you hate Talksport, and that I just despise it. I think I'm subscribed to you on YouTube, but I just dismiss all the videos. I don't like any of the. I don't like. Let me rephrase that. I don't like the majority of the hosts. I find them kind of like these very average kind of ex-footballers who are trying to, be in the limelight and have a bit of a say or still be relevant in the football world of today. And if I to completely honest, I'd much rather listen to some other football content than that. But I think that one popped up on my Twitter a few times, and I think I saw that Stevie was trying to like defend himself on Twitter, and he's now put his Twitter page on private because he's been getting a lot of backlash from Chelsea fans. But I just think give him a break. Like, if you know the real guy, he's a proper Chelsea fan. He's really passionate, and at the moment he was just caught in a bit of a deer in headlights. So yeah, I just kind of really emphasize and feel sorry for him, if anything.
I do and I don't, and I think I kind of tried to sum that up in the video. I do really feel sorry for him, but at the same time, I think if you're you're trying to speak for the masses, I suppose, which is what I feel like he was trying to do that, and he did start really well. But like I said, when anyone like Simon Jordan or Jim White throws a curveball in there or throws something that just throws you off a little bit, you have to be able to redeem yourself from that very quickly. And I think, the fact he's bringing up Roman, like I said in the video yesterday, there's so many other things that you could have mentioned on there, that Roman was one of the people that stepped up during COVID and allowed, the NHS to use the hotels adjacent to Stamford Bridge, use Stamford Bridge for testing for COVID, under the bridge. The actual amount of money that must have been pumped into the UK economy because of someone like Roman Abramovich. All of those things were missed in that discussion on Talksport. Not just even that, just look at the fact that Vivid Seats wasn't brought up. I mean, I would have brought that up. I said, that's a conflict of interest. There's an owner of a football club that is using his sister company to sell on inflated Chelsea tickets that members and season ticket holders are probably missing out on. I would have mentioned that. There's so many things that we could have listed down. There's no clear communication from these owners at all. But apparently, I think Todd Bowley's doing he's going on Bloomberg, I think on the 20, it would be the Thursday. So whatever day that is, the 27th, he wants to go on there and give an interview. Now that's 2 days after the protest. Now I can only assume he's going to try and calm things down and make it sound like things are okay. But I don't know. I just think if you're going to go on somewhere like Talksport, be prepared for it, because Simon Jordan, if you go back and watch some of his other videos, he's actually slagged off and slated our owners more times than he hasn't. So the ulterior motives are a thing on that platform. And I agree with you. The footballers that are on there, Jamie O'Hara's, they're just nobodies. They're just there for a paycheck. They're there literally for a paycheck. And any Chelsea fan that calls in there, which will never happen now. They've got what they wanted. They wanted a Chelsea fan that was probably not, I think I used the word clued up yesterday. Someone who isn't media savvy, maybe. I don't know what the words are that I'm trying to explain, but someone who, is able to articulate what they're trying to get across for the fan base. They didn't want someone like that on there. They wanted someone that was going to be caught in a web, was unable to bring across the points that we needed as Chelsea fans. So they've got what they wanted. They got the content, and now they've got Chelsea fans talking. But do you think, based on just that interview, that it's probably done more damage than good to the protest next week?
I don't know. Like I said, I feel like the Chelsea fan who called in was not able to really articulate at the beginning what the protest was aimed at, the main reasons why they were protesting, and the kind of aim of it, I suppose. But I feel like I don't know. I'm not really able to answer your question because I just feel like I don't really understand which type of Chelsea fan is going to be going to this protest. I don't really understand if it's going to be like the loyal match-going Chelsea fan who goes to all the away games, or if it's going to be like the more kind of maybe older generation one who kind of doesn't really feel connected to the club anymore. But yeah, I feel like maybe it's definitely raised awareness for it, and it's kind of like given it a bit of like a platform to maybe show what it's about. But I think unless you've been living under kind of a rock in the last couple of days, people are aware that there is going to be a protest happening, and it is aimed towards the owners. So I feel like it hasn't really changed the stance that a lot of Chelsea fans will have towards the protest.
I agree. It'd be interesting. I'm going to head down. I'm going to try and get there as early as possible. Um, Purely because I've been the one that I've been saying to you for so long. I haven't been buying the match day tickets. I even said to you, the Legends game. I'm sitting in the Anfield section. I don't know if there is an away section, but I've bought my tickets through LFC. I haven't bought merch for how long, so I can't say all those things and then not make my way down there on Tuesday. I'd love to go to games, but until this is resolved, until we see some change, I just on a personal level, I just can't. I can't do that. But it'll be interesting. It will be interesting. Let's move on. Let's talk some. Let's talk some proper football stuff. Let's get away from these silly owners, Clown Lake. Let's talk about some football now. Estêvão Willian. I don't know if you got to see his goal. He scored a brilliant goal. I think was it yesterday, last night, or maybe the day before?
Yeah. Palmeiras 3-1 victory over Botafogo in I think it's like this regional cup they have in different states of the Brazilian country. And I reshared it on our Instagram page, and I just saw before our video that he's viewed the Instagram story.
Nice.
So yeah, and I did put a little poll up afterwards asking Chelsea fans if they would keep him next season, loan him out again, what the plan is. But yeah, really talented player. I like the look of him.
How's the poll doing? Let's have a quick look. Because I personally I would keep him next season. I think one of the things that is annoying me with these owners, I said we were going to move on from them, but we're still here talking about them, is we've got talent out there. And we tend to move them on or loan them out when we actually could do with them in the squad now. You're looking at, which we'll talk about Aston Villa on Saturday, but we could actually do with someone like a player that is capable of, running down the channels, making something happen in that final third. And he seems to be that player. Andre Santos, another one who seems to be having a really good loan at Strasbourg. We could do with those players in the squad now, and we've got them. There are players, and I just don't understand why. What would you do? I don't understand why we wouldn't keep them in the squad, but what would you do in these circumstances?
It sounds like the kind of like easy cop out answer, but I'd assess him in pre-season, see what he's capable of doing. Maybe.
Good on.
Yeah. See what he's capable of doing maybe against some pre-season opponents. See how he adapts maybe to life at Cobham and life in the UK. I'm just looking at the poll now. Still not that many responses. Only a couple hundred people have viewed it. But we've had 88% of people say that they keep him, and 12% of people say that he's not ready yet. And so maybe that means that he's due for a loan. But I mean, historically, you look at Brazilians coming to Chelsea, Willians, Oscar, Alex, I'm sure we're missing a David Luiz, Ramirez. They do well. They do really well at Chelsea. And I just really hope that this Estavao Willian, there isn't too much pressure on him and he ends up like a Lucas Piazza on the Wallace. Yeah, there's players that maybe are dubbed the next Ronaldinho, the next Kaká, and just never really live up to the high expectation. Kennedy, another one. Yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. Not that I've watched many Palmeiras games, but actually I might when I go to Sao Paulo in April. I might get.
Yeah, it's not too long. It's like just over 6 weeks or so.
So I might try to get to a Corinthians game or a Palmeiras game while I'm in Sao Paulo. But yeah, the videos I've seen, he looks talented. Brazilian friends I've spoken to say that he's the next big thing to come out of Brazil. And I think we're trying to like follow this kind of blueprint now of trying to get that next big thing out of Brazil, or next out of South America, the next Vinicius Jr., the next Neymar, the next Rodrigo. So yeah, I think it's exciting. I'm just really excited to just see what he's capable of doing in the Chelsea shirt, maybe alongside a Cole Palmer, alongside Pedro Neto or Caicedo. It's exciting. I think he's the first youngster that we signed, because we signed a lot of youngsters recently, but he's the first one that I've actually been properly excited about, I'd say, more than Kendry Páez even.
Yeah, no, I think both of them, I think they're both very, very exciting players for different reasons. But I think you look at Real Madrid, for instance, they don't loan out Endrick. Barcelona haven't loaned out Yamin Lamel. I understand the thought process of maybe loaning out a player for this season is what we're doing with some of our youth talent that we've got. But, why not try him in the team? We've got the hopefully got the Champions League, or as a minimum, I'm hoping. I mean, I'm lowering my standards. It should be the Champions League next season. But if we get into the Europa League, that's a perfect competition for someone like him to go into, or Andre Santos, who's had a perfectly good time at Strasbourg. So I think if we're not, because I don't think we're going to sign any of these big names that we think we're going to get, like the Ossimans and Gyökeres. They're just not going to fit the wage bill. You know, the wage bill is 150 grand a week, capped, you know, at that by the owners. So I think we have to start looking at the players that we have got, the players that we have brought in. You know, Washington's gone away now, I think, to Santos on loan for the remainder of the season. Conflicting, I think I was originally told with option to buy, then later in the evening, someone said, I think it was Ben Jacobs, said there is no option to buy. So we don't know whether that's, you know, tomato. We don't know. But why not just play them in the squad next season? Like you said, preseason is a very good time to assess our squad. João Felix may move on by the looks of it now. So we need players in that area. You know, I'd be inclined to keep him in the squad and keep him for the season, next season. Why not? What have we got to lose?
Yeah. Why not? And if historically you look as well at players that we've loaned out, there's a very slim chance after that they come back to Chelsea, get back into the first team, make an impact. I think the one exception maybe would be Trevor Chalobah and maybe Victor Moses, who went out on loan and suddenly they found themselves in pre-season. Tuchel and Conte had a look at them and they brought them back into the team. Other than that, I can't really think of many that went out on loan and then cemented themselves back as a first team player.
Because we always bring players in to then replace the players who went out on loan. So we never really get to see them.
And that's why there's always memes when like loanees coming back to Cobham in July, and it's all these kind of like boats of people like arriving or whatever, all these like actions and stuff like this. But no, I find it interesting what he said, and I don't disagree at all with what he said. Estêvão Willian, because there's a chance we play a Palmeiras in the Club World Cup this June, and they asked him if he was to score against Chelsea, would he celebrate? And he said, of course, he's never worn a Chelsea shirt yet. He's not officially a Chelsea player.
Don't blame him.
It's a brilliant answer. I don't blame him at all. It's different maybe if he had the national allegiance to Chelsea, he played there for a couple of seasons, then went out on loan to Palmeiras. But I think if he scores against Chelsea, he's got every right to celebrate.
Yeah, I do. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out, actually. We haven't even really touched on the Champions League. I wish. We haven't touched on the Club World Cup, which we'll probably do later on in the season. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for him. I think we need to keep him in the squad. Another player I want to see a bit more of this season. Now, we know that Noni Madueke is out until after the international break, as Maresca's confirmed this morning in the press conference ahead of the game against Aston Villa. But Tyrique George now has an opportunity, in our opinions, I think, to potentially showcase what he can do. This is his opportunity. Madueke's out. Sancho is a bit more preferred to the left, I think, or you could potentially switch him to the right. But do you think this is a time for Tyrique George now to give Maresca something to think about for the remainder of the season and essentially maybe leapfrog Noni Madueke when he returns in the pecking order in our starting 11?
Absolutely. I feel like you look at our squad now with Madueke injured, Mudryk banned or about to be banned. I'm still unsure about what's going to happen there. João Felix now on loan, Nkuku preferred as a 10, Palmer preferred as a 10. Pedro Neto and Sancho, I would say, underperforming. It's a chance, therefore, for Tyrique George to come in, have an impact. I do feel sorry for him. I think he's been brought in the last 2 games against Brighton when we've been playing really poorly and trailing already, and he hasn't really had any impact he wants. But I think maybe bring him off the bench against Aston Villa on Saturday and maybe even start him against Southampton on Tuesday, perhaps, and maybe see what he's capable of doing. Well, we've already seen what he's capable of doing, but maybe give him a bit more game time. And then when we've got these Conference League round of 16 games and hopefully quarterfinal games, it'd be a chance for him to maybe start on those on Thursday evening. Interesting to see what Maresca said about him in his press conference today. He said he's a young one, but with the amount of injuries, we must use the ones we have. He's doing well. In some moments, we don't have different options, so we need to give him chances. Hopefully, he can help us, which seems to indicate that he's definitely part of Maresca's plans and will feature in the next couple of months before the end of the season.
and he was part of the media, the social media pictures. I think there was a picture of him and Maresca yesterday that came out. You know, Maresca obviously clearly talking to him, so he feels like, I feel like when they put things like that out on social media, it almost gives you an indication as to who might start, who's going to be featuring, and I think he will. I think, you know, I've always said, I think I mean, I prefer him more on the right side. Sorry, on the left side. We've watched him a lot in the Conference League, and he tends to play a bit more better on the left for me. And then I think there was a game, it might be the Shamrock Rovers game, one of them, can't remember. They all blend into one, but he switched him to the right hand side in the second half, and I don't think he was as effective on the right. So it'd be interesting. I really want to see him. I think I. It's a shame for Josh Ashempong as well, because I think he was just coming into the squad as we were kind of needing reinforcements in the defence, and he's kind of been pushed to the side a little bit with Chalobah returning to the club. But with Tyrique George, I think he's got an opportunity now. I think Madueke, we know, hasn't really been performing that well. As you said, Neto and Sancho have been underperforming in countless games now. This is the time for some of these youth players. I've just said about Estêvão Willian. Take your opportunities. You know, when you get a chance in the Chelsea squad, you've got to take the opportunity and grab it by the, even like Keenan Dewsbury Hall. You know, we joke about him being, you know, the marquee signing under Maresca, but you know, these are your opportunities. If you get them, you've got to take them. So for me, I think Tyrique George would start against Aston Villa. He would start against Southampton. It gives. I want to ask you another question as well. Does it give someone like Sancho, Neto, and Kunku, Palmer, whoever's playing on those wide areas, does it give them something to think about as well? You know, if they're, you know, a youth player's coming in and he's stepping up before you, you know, he's in the team, he's on the team sheet before your name's even on there. Does that give someone like Sancho something, you know, actually, I'm not playing as well as I should be. The manager's not picking me, you know, surely that's a sign to them as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it could work in one or two ways. It could kind of dent their ego, and they could like show a bit of frustration or kind of ill discipline towards the club and the manager. Or on the contrary, it could motivate them to work harder and get back into the team to kind of dislodge a youth player and prove to the manager that they should be starting the game. Unfortunately, in the case of like someone like Sancho, I think it will be the first option, given kind of how things have planned out for him in the past at Manchester United, and he has been kind of shown to have a bit of a fiery character or not really the best disciplined player. I think Madueke will be a similar one. I think these players have such big egos nowadays at such a young age that they wouldn't take it well if a youth player started games ahead of them. But I think from Maresca, it's kind of, if you've got an underperforming winger and you've got a youth player who's shown really promising signs in the games that he has played and really promising signs in the youth games he's played, then you've got to make the right decision and just play the player that's got a best chance of performing well on the pitch. And right now is Tyrique George, I would say.
Yeah. And there's two ways to look at this as well. This is an opportunity for Tyrique George to put himself in that starting 11. I wouldn't be surprised. I remember you saying this a couple of weeks ago, if we're only bringing Tyrique George and Josh Ashempong into the senior squad because we're considering moving them on in the summer. So it could be that. It could be that reason. But I feel like even if it is that, you know, give yourself the opportunity where the manager can't sell you or the owners can't sell you because you're playing that well that they just can't afford to let you go. We'll have to see with Tyrique George. But you mentioned the Conference League. We now know. I mean, I was watching. I was enviously watching the Champions League draw before we started recording. Some really good ties in the Champions League, but we do know we have either Copenhagen or Real Betis potentially in the next round of the Conference League. Out of those two teams, and I feel like Real Betis lost last night, but still went through. I might have got that wrong. What's your thoughts on both of those teams, and who do you think we should be, or who would you prefer us to be facing in the next round of the Conference League?
Firstly, given the level of this tournament, I think these are two very tricky opponents to be facing at such an early stage, round of 16. I think they're more maybe like quarter-final, semi-final level opponents. Out of the two, I'd much prefer to play Copenhagen on a kind of quality of the team perspective, because I do think Betis are superior. But I would prefer to play Betis purely from a selfish point of view, because I'd really want to go to Seville and travel to sunny Spain and
Forget the result.
experience a bit of
I want to get to Spain.
Literally experience it and sunshine. I think it's my birthday week as well. So But yeah, I think either or I'd be kind of happy in a way. But I think we can't take any of these kind of games for granted. You look at Copenhagen last season; they were in a group with United, Galatasaray, and Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and I think they drew with Manchester United and beat them once, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they got some decent results against the other teams as well. So they're no mugs, you know, and they've got a really intimidating atmosphere at the Parker Stadium in Copenhagen. Betis, on the other hand, I think after Fiorentina, this is the second hardest team to play in the entire tournament.
Yeah.
That wasn't maybe reflected in terms of the table, or the league table of the Conference League, but if you look at the actual quality in the team, I think they've got the best quality maybe with Fiorentina. They've just signed Anthony as well, who's been
Yeah.
rejuvenated there. I think he scored already 2 or 3 goals in 3 or 4 games. I also saw that I think one of their big players, I think Victor Roque, got sent off straight red card yesterday.
Yesterday,
So
yeah.
he'll be
He'll
suspended.
miss.
Yeah, he'll be suspended if we do play Real Betis. But yeah, like I said, I think I'd prefer to play Copenhagen because I think it's an easier tie. But I would prefer to travel to Betis and experience that kind of match day in
The
Seville.
heat in the sun, in the
And
sunshine. I get it. I understand. I think I agree with you. I think both of these fixtures, regardless of who we get in the next round, are tricky, and I think the Real Betis would cause more problems from a the players that they have in their squad. You know, I think they have Isco. They've got a player called Hernandez, I think, who plays up front. Obviously, Anthony Lo Celso, I think's there now. Cardozo, I think, is there. He plays in midfield for them. So they have a good squad. And I'm not trying to disrespect Copenhagen, but I'm sure if I remember correctly, they didn't have the best running in the Conference League either. I think they took a couple of beatings in the Conference League. I think they beat Hearts 2-0. But Real Betis are just a team that look like they're in a bit of form now. Obviously, Anthony's come in and he's started his career really well there with them. So I do think whoever we get, and I've said this before, we cannot afford to lose the Conference League. We just can't. We just can't. It'd be, you know, we were favourites from the very start. We should still be. I haven't checked the odds, but we should be favourites still now. But just on the form that the level of football we clearly are showing, or lack of positive football that we're showing at the moment, I worry about both of these teams. I don't think there's an easier fixture out of the two. I think both will give us problems. It worries me. It does worry me. But I'm going to go Betis. I think I'd like to play Real Betis. I think you can only play who's in front of you, and I think getting a team like Real Betis out of the Conference League, it just shows you might give these players a bit more momentum to go on in the next round, whoever we get in the next round as well, to then progress hopefully to the final and win the Conference League. But it's going to be tough.
Just looking at the squad, you mentioned Isco, who's I think a 3 or 4-time Champions League winner. Played hundreds of games for Real Madrid. They've got Giovanni Lo Celso, ex Tottenham player, Real player. Yeah, Hector Bellerin, who's their right back, Arsenal player.
Wow, I did not know that.
Pablo Fornals used to play at West Ham. Mark Barker used to play at Barcelona.
They've got a good squad.
And Borussia Dortmund. They've got William Carvalho, who used to play at Sporting CP. I think was linked to, Manchester United and Chelsea many times.
He was.
He's international. Ricardo Rodriguez, left back. Adrian, the ex West Ham goalkeeper and Liverpool goalkeeper.
Yeah,
like this is not a team of nobodies. They've got experience in this team, a lot of experience.
You might be too young to remember Renford Rejects. He used to come on Nickelodeon, but it does feel a bit Renford Rejects a little bit. It was a brilliant program. He used to come on Nickelodeon about 5 o'clock every night, but it does feel a little bit like that. It's almost like the Premier League rejects that no one really wants. But if you can get them playing well, I can guarantee you, I'm joking about it, but they could easily give us a game, easily give us a really good game. And we've spoken in depth about the lack of quality and depth that we have now. You know, we've got rid of João Felix. We don't have Renato Vega, Carney Chukwuemeka in the squad, who you would have thought would be playing in these sort of games, you know, against Copenhagen or Real Betis. We've lost that now. So essentially, Maresca's going to have to play the same squad that he's going to have to use in the Premier League, or, you know, I was going to say in the FA Cup, but let's not talk about that. But in the Premier League, in the Conference League again. So, it's going to be tough. We're going to have to make sure we don't pick up injuries along the way as well.
I think I made up my mind. I prefer Betis because I prefer Estrella to Carlsberg. So let's go with that.
That is a very, very. Do you know, if there was ever a reason why you need to choose a destination, that is literally it. Do people still drink Carlsberg? They can't, because Carlin and Carlsberg are like, there must be like lowest tier of like beer ever.
You go to a pub and you see Carlsberg in the UK, and you just it's the one you always go for if there's nothing better. But yeah, I always try to go for a Mediterranean one if I can.
Mine used to be Foster's. If there was no other option, I know, it's like drinking piss, really, isn't it? But it would be Foster's. I think my worst. Madri's another one. Madri's another weird one because actually Madri is
British.
It's almost like it's like a catfish of beers. It's not actually. It's made in England. It's like brewed here. It's so weird, and I don't think people realize that until.
I think some Brits started it in COVID, like the Spanish beer. I don't mind it, but yeah, now that as soon as you know it's British and not quite Spanish,
you don't want to drink it. You can taste the British, like the Britishness in it a little bit more. It's from Britain, but no, it'd be interesting. Whoever we get, I think it's going to be a tough fixture. But the draw's today. I think the draw is today. I think is it?
Is it 20 minutes? Yeah,
20 minutes, 1 p.m.
Taking place in Nyon, Switzerland. So we'll find out then, and we'll also have a clear indication of what our path to the final would be. Should we beat Copenhagen or Betis?
Isn't it bad that I don't know that our draw is at 1 p.m? It's because I don't know if you got to hear what John Obi Mikel said on the latest Obi-Wan Mikel podcast, but he was like, I don't watch Conference League football, and I kind of believe him because there was a game at it was the Astana game that kicked off at like 3:30 or something like that. It was just wasn't good at all. But 1 p.m. I'm sure we'll do a follow up to that on our YouTube channel. So make sure if you're listening on the audio version, you head over at some point over the weekend. Hit the notification bell on YouTube. Make sure you don't miss that. We'll be definitely talking about that. Let's jump into tomorrow because we have Aston Villa, who have not won a game in 5 Premier League matches. And of course, we go there tomorrow. I can only assume we're going to hand them 3 points and a win. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts going into this game? Aston Villa 5:30. Unai Emery's team, Marcus Rashford, Asensio, up against Caicedo, Enzo, maybe Tweet George, Malagusto. Yeah. You don't know.
It's I didn't know about that record about no wins in 5, but I'm aware that I think in those 5 they got some good draws against Liverpool and Arsenal. I think. And they beat. I think they drew with Ipswich, which was the one that made me think there's a chance for us, perhaps. But no, you can't take playing against Aston Villa. It's always going to be a tough occasion, especially in recent years. I think we've got a better record against them away from home than at home, if I'm not mistaken. I think our record at Villa Park's actually not too bad. Even last season, we got that 2-2 draw where Desarcy, I think, scored in the last minute, and then he got ruled off because this Badiashile had a little push. But I remember watching that second half and thinking, this is bloody good from Chelsea, because that first half was disastrous. And then we managed to get a decent point and come back. I'm torn. I think you look at all those players you listed: Asensio, Rashford, McGinn, Tillemans, who's got an eye for goal at the moment as well.
Yeah.
And you look at the Chelsea team, who just can't even find the back of the net at the moment. I mentioned this in the last recording. Our last 3 goals have been 2 own goals and a Pedro Neto pinball goal in the penalty box. So when you look at the 3-0 defeat we had against Brighton, again, that game could have gone on for another half an hour, 45 minutes, and we would have not scored. It looked like we're just struggling to create goals. It's like we've gone back to playing like we did under Potter, all this fancy passing in our own half and the opponent's half, but not actually creating any clear-cut chances. If we don't create chances against Villa and we don't even test Emiliano Martinez, who's a top-quality goalkeeper, we're not going to get any result at all.
Yeah.
So forget the fact that they have a 1-1 in 5. They're going to get the 3 points against us. I'm almost 90% sure. And I can just see it like the same kind of typical post you get. It ends in defeat at Villa Park on Instagram. No post for 24 hours. And then another one being like preparations underway for Southampton. It's going to be the same bullshit again, and it's I'm not looking forward to this one. That's going to be my Saturday evening ruined before the half marathon.
I was going to say, it could be worse. It could be worse. We could it could have been Valentine's Day last Friday. I mean, my Valentine's Day was a bit of a mess, to be honest, because of Chelsea. I went to bed in a mood, as I always do. Let me just find you on here quickly, so we can do our predicted lineups as well. But yeah, it wasn't good at all. Was not good at all. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think we have to we just have to be prepared for them. I think it's going to be a difficult game. We know that we can't be naive in the fact that we're clearly not playing well as Aston Villa, but Villa Park is always going to be a difficult ground to go to. I kind of put it in the same bracket as Goodison Park. It is a very, very difficult ground to go and get 3 points from. The good thing is obviously they've had a match midweek. We haven't, so you would assume that might give us a bit of an advantage. But you look at our squad and we could have had a 12-month break and we still wouldn't be confident going into that game on Saturday. So let's go through the lineup. Let's try and do this before we wrap up. So I've preempted your thoughts and gone for Jurgensen in goal. I'm assuming you'd stick with that. Maresca said he's our Premier League goalkeeper now. What would be the back four?
Did you also see what Maresca said about Sanchez's new haircut?
Yeah, I did. He said, if you want to get back in the team, you got to look like me.
Yeah, no, he's shaved his head now, so that's why Maresca comically made that joke. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jorgensen. I wasn't that impressed against him against Brighton, but I think it's hard to pinpoint just Jorgensen for the 3 goals we conceded. But yeah, I do think he's got to step up, because I actually look at some of the keepers we have on loan, and right now they're better than the 2 we have in our team.
Yeah.
So he's got, I think, 3 or 4 months now to prove himself that he should be the starting goalkeeper for Chelsea next season, or even part of the 3 or 2 goalkeepers we rotate for next season.
I want to ask you a question, actually. Alisson might be available. I did do a little video on that. Now, Alisson, obviously, Mamardashvili is expected to be first choice. Alisson or Kelleher, I would assume, will become available in the summer. Surely, we have to go in for either or. But I would prefer Alisson out those 2. What's your thoughts on that?
I was wanting Alisson to come to Chelsea summer 2017, I believe, where he was still at Roma. He's a top quality keeper. I still consider him in the world-class bracket.
100%.
If we could get him on the cheap, that would be fantastic, especially if Liverpool kind of tell him that he won't be starting games and he's not happy to be second choice. I kind of can see maybe Kelleher leaving and Alisson and Mamardashvili having that kind of Courtois check kind of even where one is the understudy and one maybe plays the handover period. But yeah, I would literally in a heartbeat take Kelleher, Alisson. And I also read this morning that Ederson might be on his way out, one of the experienced players at City. And it's like 7 experienced players at City that might be on the way out. So I would take any of those 2 Brazilians or Kelleher.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I just wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah.
Backline, who are you going for?
I'll go Cucurella, Tosin, Chalobah, and Reece James. I can see you've got all the kits ready as well, the historic ones.
Yeah.
This season's ones.
We came prepared. So you said Cucurella, Tosin, and sorry, you said Tosin, Chalobah, did you say?
Chalobah, I did. I think I dropped Colwell for this one. That's 2 games now where he's made mistakes. West Ham, that fault Owen game. And I think the first one of the Brighton goals, he's like complaining when in reality there was no foul in the build.
Yeah, it was soft. It was a soft one. It was soft. It was really soft.
Exactly. You've got to be stronger. And he's one of those players we consider now experienced. We consider him a bit of a leader, but he does need to step up in games. So yeah, I would potentially drop him for this one and have Reece James on the right.
I don't know why I've selected this kit. I'm assuming we might play in this one, but right. Okay, so we've gone for Cucurella, Tosin, Chalobah centre backs, Reece James on the right side of the defence. I'm assuming the 2 midfield will be
Caicedo and Enzo. Yeah,
Caicedo, Enzo.
Those are the 2 that'll fit. I do feel like in this moment we really are missing Lavia, but we've got to do with what we've got right now. And I do think Dewsbury Hall's a good squad player, but in a game like this, away to Villa Park, you've got to play your strongest midfield.
Yeah,
and that's I agree. And hopefully Enzo can get another postage stamp free kick
Yeah,
against his Argentinian compatriot at Villa Park again.
we need it. We do need it on Saturday. This is where it gets interesting based on the conversation we've had about Tyrique George. But would you start Tyrique George, or would you go with Sancho, Neto as the wide with Cole Palmer as the 10?
And even like Dupay Cuckoo again as the false 9. There's a lot of like question marks around kind of how we'd set up offensively here. Do you know what? I'm going to roll the dice and I would start Tyrique George ahead of Sancho for this one.
Okay.
I feel like in the last few days, I'm backtracking on what I said before about not starting George, but starting him against Southampton maybe. But I would start him. I just haven't really been impressed with Sancho, and I would tell you something offline afterwards about Sancho that I heard from actually a friend who had dinner with Todd Bowley. I'll save it for another podcast maybe, but I'll tell you on WhatsApp after.
Yeah, exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah.
Okay.
I would start George, then Palmer as the 10.
Yeah.
And Neto. Would you agree with that, or?
I did my lineup yesterday. I'm just trying to think what I did. I think I would. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's kind of tricky because I think because we're limited to who we can start and who obviously now Medwick is injured as well. I think we have to. I personally would start Tyrique George, whether that's on the left or right, I'm not sure, but I think I'll go with the left. As I said, I prefer him on the left side. Neto, I think out of the two, Sancho and Neto, I think Neto gives you a little bit more, not much more, but a little bit more, just creatively and trying to get forward with the ball. False 9. Or I say false 9. Who are we going with as our main striker? Is that Nkunku?
Sancho. It's not going to be Nkunku purely on the lack of options we have or the lack of depth we have in the number 9 department. But like I said on the previous recording for Nkunku, and as the 9, I do want to see him kind of interchanging with Palmer.
Yeah.
Between the 10 and the 9.
And Neto as well.
And Neto, yeah. I think something that a lot of teams have done recently is almost man-mark Palmer out of games. They know he's a creative kind of hub at Chelsea. They know he's the best player. And as soon as he has the ball, you have 2 or 3 players on him, and he has been kind of struggling to kind of create or beat his best. So I would have Palmer as the 10 and Nkunku as the 9 and not have Sancho in his team for me.
Oh, I don't know why I put Sancho. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. But yeah, Nkunku, another one though. I think again he was poor against Brighton. I don't know if he's knows that he doesn't want to be at the club anymore, but he's arguably playing for his future right now. So
I think it's like a confidence.
Yeah, I don't see the same Nkunku that we saw against Bournemouth. You know, that when he came on at the vitality, the same Nkunku we saw back end of last season, who was like kind of like shuffling through players in the penalty box and slotting it in past goalkeepers.
Yeah,
I just feel like he's a lack of confidence, like you said, and maybe he just needs to get these blue balloons out of his socks.
Yeah,
because they're clearly maybe playing on his mind, but forget about the balloons. Just focus on getting the goal, the ball in the back of the net now. Yeah.
We need some football. But I like this lineup. I'm just trying to think, did I go for that? I think I did. I pretty much think I went for this lineup. I think I might have had Colwell in there ahead of Tosun. I don't know where Tosun fits in our team. I think he's only been brought in because he was a free transfer. And if I'm honest, I think the club will try and make some money out of him, which is why I think they brought him in the first place. I'm just trying to get my lineup on. I did do it yesterday, but
I like Tosun. I feel like you rescued us a point with that big block against.
Yeah, he did.
Against Everton, another big block or goal line clearance against West Ham. So I do think he's almost kind of underrated in that aspect, and we almost written him off too soon. But I do also agree that maybe he doesn't really fit the profile of what we're trying to do, which could mean that we only bought him on a free to then sell him on for maybe a bit of a profit. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we sign another centre back, whether that be Mark Guehi, Mark Guehi, sorry.
Yep.
Mark Guehi, yeah, or even I don't know, Gonzalo Inacio from Sporting CP, and like a young kind of centre back. Then I think the first centre back to maybe be shown out of the door. Yeah.
followed very swiftly by Trevor Chalobah. I don't know if you got to hear the news that came out this week that the club are willing to hear offers for Trevor Chalobah, which is one of the reasons why we record him. Which I knew anyway. I think he was always on the cards that he was going to be one of the first names on that list of players to go out. Pure profit. As we know, the club it's their keywords, their buzzwords that they probably have written on every single wall in the boardroom at Chelsea, wherever they have their meetings. But no, that lineup's really good. I think I pretty much went for the same. I think I swapped Colwell for Tosin in mine, but Tariq George for me has to start. Maresca has to put some trust in some of these players that he just hasn't used. I still think the three at the back would work with the two wing backs, but I just, you can see that Maresca's quite stubborn in his ways. He won't change tactically. He wants to play this 4-2-3-1 with the inverted of the fullbacks. I think ultimately that's going to cost him his job, if I'm honest. I hope it doesn't, but I just can't see us. I just can't see us changing tactically. Question around the bench for you though. That bench isn't going to look very good tomorrow afternoon. I'm just trying to think who might come on based on if we need players. I'm trying to think now who would it be?
Yeah, complete lack of depth with our bench. I think you've got Dewsbury Hall on there. You've got Malagusto. You've got perhaps Raksaki. You've
Yeah,
perhaps got Ashampong. But these aren't players that are going to change your game, are they? They're
no,
more defensive options, or if you're like trying to hold on to a lead. But yeah, that's why I think we're really struggling right now. And I think the sooner we can get to end of March and after the international break and get back Jackson, get back Madueke, get back Lavia, get back Mark Gui, then that's when we'll start to be maybe have more options on the bench. And also that's why I'm a bit worried about this next title of the Conference League, because we might go in
yeah,
it really, really short on options.
yeah.
But yeah, I do worry about our bench and our depth at the moment.
Mm. And also as well, we might pick up injuries on the international break as well. That's not uncommon for us to pick up, which I hope doesn't happen. But if we lose someone like Cole Palmer, or we lose a Enzo, Caicedo, Cucurella, if we lose one of those key players in the squad in the next international break, or one of the players that we expect to come back after the international break has an issue whilst they're in rehabilitation, it could be this. This period now is so crucial. It's season defining moments for Maresco, who did come out today and say that top four is the aim. Very mixed opinions from him. But before we wrap up, predictions as always. I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go with 3-1 Aston Villa. Like I said,
Oh,
can't see us kind of winning or getting a draw. And I think our goal would be either, like I said, a scrappy kind of
own
own
goal.
goal, or like a centre back header that deflects off Mings or whoever's the centre back. But I just can't see us creating a good goal. I really hope I'm proven wrong. But yeah, I'm not confident for this one at all.
I think this is a team that we're facing that will cause problems. Jacob Ramsey, Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins, Marcus Rashford, Luca Dina, John McGinn. Very, very difficult. So I'm gonna go 2-1 Chelsea. I'm gonna back us to win very quietly. But I think we need to, not we can, we need to get 3 points and keep that top four dream alive. So maybe I'm being a bit optimistic there, but I'm gonna go 2-1 Chelsea and hope we get 3 points. But it'd be tough.
I'll take that all day. Trust me, I'll take that all day. And I can maybe like mount a bit of momentum and confidence we need to get going. Because, like I said, last away win was in Kazakhstan mid-December. So
December 12th.
we need to kind of get back to December 12th, exactly. We need to get back to getting some wins on the road, because otherwise there are going to be a lot of unhappy Chelsea fans travelling back to London on Saturday evening.
And just before we wrap up, the last thing I think we have to win, because don't forget those protests will be a lot more uglier on Tuesday.
Yeah.
If we don't win on Saturday, I can guarantee you those protests that we want to be peaceful, we want it to be a peaceful protest and we want people to go there to voice their opinions. But if we don't win on Saturday, I can guarantee you, and I hope this doesn't happen, but they will not be as peaceful as we think they will be, which will be annoying. But we have to go into that Southampton game with 3 points to then build on that, and we have to beat Southampton as well. So let's build on the momentum there for us, and fingers crossed we get the 3 points.
Absolutely, yeah. Fingers crossed. And like you said, I just don't want to see those protests at 6 p.m. on Tuesday turn ugly. If the
Yeah.
result at Villa Park is equally as ugly.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. But Theo, as always, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. As always, the Friday sessions are normally the ones where we start the weekend on a high, and then by 5:30 we're normally sort of saying every swear word you can think of on WhatsApp and everything else. So, but let's hope we are positive. Let's hope, obviously, good luck for your half marathon on Sunday as well. I'm sure you'll be ready to watch Man City Liverpool by the time that finishes. But yeah, good luck with that on Sunday as well.
Cheers. Thank you.
And anyone that's listening, please make sure you subscribe. As I said before, we are on the road now to 600 subscribers. So make sure you subscribe. If you're on the audio version, hit the notification bell, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, all of that good stuff. Until next time, we will be back soon. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the weekend.